09440981.
We're also taking messages with the hashtag FreshlyPressed981 up on Twitter. So make sure you get involved ASAP. And you may want to get involved in this first story. Devoe, national carrier to begin operation in December, says the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Now, this is from Captain Usman Mukhtar. He's confirmed December as the commencement date for the proposed national carrier, saying that, this time we're making sure everything is being done just right. What do you think is going to be called? Nigeria Air?
Nigeria.
Come on, carry go.
What are your thoughts on this development?
Well, it's been in the cookie jar, or let's say the frying pan, for some time. And whether to be or not to be, this government is still working on it. At different points in time, they have been updating us. Here, the DG is saying that FG has put in plans to involve the agencies like the NCAA, and, the other ones, FAN, etc., and co, to ensure the commencement of the airline. Not that they're meant to manage it, but they would basically teleguide and ensure that all areas that have to do with timelines and also packaging is done rightly. That in the past this was not done, that it would be done this time. Have a foreign operator managing, that's one angle. Celebrating on that idea of having maybe aero combination in terms of their skills, their competence, and where they have technical capacities. So those looking at that, for a long time we've been consequence. An era of this when this government came in, we refer to as body language. But the body language has since faded away, and it's like we've gone to square one. We've gone back to what we know what to do best. So like I said, we need more of this. I think everybody who is raising a petition, you might want to push it towards the Federal High Court of Abuja, as long as the superpowered justice is there. Some level of justice and equity should come out.
All right, some level of justice and equity seems to be appearing. Let's move away from that now. Look at news development that's a little bit worrying, and we have been seeing reports of attacks on monarchs in different places, but this one is in from the Vanguard newspaper. A monarch has been beaten to death, and then 15 houses burnt in Enugu. Him into a stew, and he later died from a sustained. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's sad, and the monarch lost his life earlier. A few people, lost their lives in, and limbs as well. So lost their livelihoods and their lives changed forever. It's very unfortunate when things like this happen, and we have, repeated occurrences of, flashpoints like this that end up in persons losing their life. The story itself has, they're conflicting versions. There's a version that says he went to a court. Doesn't explain whether it is a traditional court or whether it's a
after
court
hours
of law. He goes back, he go after hours.
And in an atmosphere that feels quite tense, where the common man is very distressed with what's going on. You can see that also in the story. It does complain about unfair levies, unfair taxes. What do you think this indicates?
And when there have been cases, and across the country, different rulers, or at least in the east and southwest, where rulers have been deposed and attacked because there was an increase in levy and increased taxation. When people feel it directly and they see that that ruler is the source of their discomfort, then yeah, they will. Things like this can happen.
All right, thank you very much. We've got a few messages to get through this morning, though.
On Twitter, we have this one from Okonkwo Samuel. He says, this judicial blessing should continue to shower on our past so-called leaders who brought our country to their knees, to her knees. I just hope another justice in appeal Supreme Court will not overturn this. Damola sent this one on WhatsApp. Says, still been taken out behind our backs, and Nigeria we do. Pessimism there. Libby from First Access, the judge deserves a round of applause. I hope hard labor is included in that judgment. Adeswa says, I love Justice Banjoko. She's our heroine for justice. If AFCC wants fair judgment, they should send all the cases to her. She actually acquitted him on some charges, but convicted him for the other. It tells me that she has the strength of character to be fair. Kudos to her and the justice system. A fair justice system gives us hope. By the way, This is a serving APC senator. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
There you go. Yes, he was convicted on 15 counts out of 23 that were put forward. The other were dismissed for lack of sufficient evidence. But we move on now. Our next story in from ThisDay newspaper: Buhari to sign the 2018 budget ThisDay. And now a lot of people have been asking this question, sending in messages saying that, come on, June 12th has passed now. That's nice. But it's June 13th. The appropriation bill that was laid out almost 6 months ago has still not been adopted. Your thoughts, Devoe?
Well, it's coming late, 7 months after it should have been passed. And as some people pointed out from the presidency, that if not for the June 12th honor to Abiola Kingibe Bayemi, that it would have been on June 12th, the same time last year's budget was passed by the then acting president, Yemi Osibanjo. Now, we know the budget is about 9.1 trillion, was increased for so reasons. What we're looking at here is that this day is needed. The back and forth between the executive and the legislature is slowing the economy down. Now, we need to realize that there's a cost to it. So what you have not passed in budget, you will pay the price. Now, and the funny thing is that the bureaucratic delays are coming on the altar of politics and not even on issues. Now, how does it hurt the economy? Mandates are stalled. Project performance is not done. There's so many projects that require the government's input. They can't be completed. MDAs, that's the ministries, departments, and agencies, cannot carry out their obligations and responsibilities simply on the fact that they haven't been funded.
But Devoe, sorry, just going back to this, a lot of the delay, especially this time around, as more information has come out, because we have seen the delay before, so it's not new, but a lot of the delay has been pointed at the inefficiency of the MDA, saying that, listen, this could have gone a lot faster if people had shown up to defend budgets that were put before them on time. And you talked earlier on about a cost, right, to the Nigerian people. Do you think that there's some way going forward that we can have our legislature somehow impose this cost onto the MDs, onto the agencies that are costing us this time?
It's not their place. The truth is, it's your fail. That's what you call a failed government. The report card is directly on the executive. They're the ones that make the appointments. They have the ministers. They have the power and the authority. So if your downlines, your subordinates or agencies are not working, you get the shot.
But then, Devoe, this is perennial. We see it every year in the Nigerian government. So how do we change that? How do we
bad
change
leadership. That? Bad leadership.
Okay.
Look and vote in people who can work for you, who can actually deliver the mandate of governance. This is the whole thing about bad governance. So when we talk politics from day and night, religion and ethnicity, etc., we realize that we will pay the real cost at the end of the day.
Thank you very much for that, Devoe. Keep sending your thoughts and your messages into us. The hashtag is freshlypressed981 up on Twitter, and the WhatsApp number is 0809 444 981. I'll read out a couple of messages and we'll move on to the next set of stories. Bengus says, whalers will claim now that the anti-corruption war of President Muhammadu Buhari is targeted only at the PDP members. They even went further in their ridiculous claim that once anybody standing on trial joins the APC, his or her court case will be stopped. Now that a prominent APC senator has been found guilty, what other explanation will be given? While Ike Osuji says, kudos to the judiciary, I will not sip my champagne yet until Oji Uzo, Achike Udenwa, and probably Rochas test their jail tea. Let's move on.
There are many more on that list.
We'll move on now to this very interesting story from Premium Times. We have this one today. I'll come to you with this. So a leak of private property data in Dubai has shed more lights, or a new light, on how the proceeds of the notorious $1.3 billion oil deal involving Shell, they have been spent on luxury villas in a secretive Arab estate. Now, this one has indicted, or really is seen to be indicting the former Nigerian oil minister, Daniel Etete, among thousands of properties and residency records that was compiled by assorted real estate professionals in Dubai. In this report, they said to have purchased a property in the Beverly Hills of Dubai, actually, Dubai Hills, and it's running into millions and millions of dollars. What's your take on this?
I mean, the Malabu Scandal has pride of place in the corruption chronicles of Nigeria. I mean, we can't say our story, especially as regards corruption, without this case popping up, and it never fails to give additional detailed information, and it's a long story,
yes,
as always, with huge sums quoted back and forth. Now, the discovery of this new information about properties that Etete allegedly owns in Dubai, and how it also includes how he brought in funds into the UAE, into the Emirates via an informal money changer. All of that is significant because there is a court date in Italy for the 20th of June,
Yes.
where himself, Shell and Eni, and some of their former executives will be standing trial. So this is useful. This is additional information that will be going into the prosecution case. I mean, just to remind us, I mean, this is the whole Malabu story is down to the fact that in the final days of the Abacha regime,
Yes.
Etete was the oil minister, and he created a shell company, or he had the shell company, Malabu Oil,
yes.
and he awarded an oil block OPL 245 to that company, being no one real owners were. It finally emerges that Etete, after investigation, is linked to it. Shell and Eni decide or agree to buy that oil block for $1.3 billion and transfer the money to the Nigerian government, who in turn transferred the money to Malabu Oil. And remember, there's a lot of criticism at the time as to why the government, knowing the the real owner behind the Shell company Malabu Oil, had decided still to award the funds or award the money to Malabu Oil. And since then, there's been fallout of all the corruption involved, ranging from our government, Etete, and executives at both Shell and Eni. It's just another example of how our Commonwealth is just stolen and filtered away. We'll see what the court proceedings from the 20th of June.
But very quick question before we move on. Do you think, I'm concerned, but more like, do you think if international investigators did not raise a red flag based on the transactions, anything would have happened?
Nothing.
Nothing.
This discovery is due to international concerted efforts and investigation. So.
Thank you very much, Tunde. Moving on now, we go to this next story from a Guardian, a newspaper. I'll stick with you with this one. Nigeria shines at EMEA Awards. That's the Europe, Middle East, and Africa Finance Awards in 3 categories. One of which is the best sovereign bond in Africa, and the next one is the best Naira bond, and then the third one, the most innovative bond. They said it improved the stake over 30-year bond period. What's the implication of this on Nigeria's finance system?
Okay, well, so the implications, or there are a number of implications. One, it's a good story in that it positions us, properly for to attract foreign capital inflows. To say that okay, they're good. Nigerian securities are good and will return. Obviously, that is influenced by the risk. So there's where there's higher risk, there's much greater return. So if you look at economies and countries where things are, the risk is much lower, obviously the returns are a lot more lower. Which is why things like when interest rates in the US also have an impact on emerging markets and their ability to attract investment. But because there is greater risk, there's obviously greater return. So it's good that these securities from Nigeria have been singled out by a body such as the EMEA Finance for recognition, because it then says that and points out that we're doing something quite good. There were also we recorded a number of firsts in the innovative manner in which especially the Eurobond was structured.
Yes.
In the amount of money that we raised, and also I mean that was the first time that we had raised such. I think other than South Africa, I mean we are the only ones that have raised this amount, which is good in that it opens up our options and not just leaves us going to the IMF and the World Bank for funding. The other important point is that the funds are supposed to be linked to the proceeds are supposed to be linked to infrastructure
payments.
Yeah, exactly, for infrastructure projects, right? Earmarked infrastructure projects. So this is funds that's going into directly developing and improving infrastructure in the nation.
Thank you very much for that breakdown, Tunde. So, Devoe, this next story is for you from New Telegraph. Over the last couple of days now, we've seen claims and counterclaims from the chairman of Innoson Motors about the GTBank and the Supreme Court judgments Well, today he seems to be,
Licking
licking his
his
own
tail.
secret, his own lies, actually saying that he's sorry that he lied. He admitted that there was no Supreme Court judgment against GTBank. Yesterday, we actually didn't take that one, where he said that the Supreme Court had awarded him 14 billion naira against GTBank. Now he's refuting all those claims.
Can we just point out that the headline from the New Telegraph is also misleading because he didn't say we lied. He says, listen, there's a distortion of facts, but carry on.
Okay.
Well, talk about what they refer to as boomerang. This had gone on for a while, and sides had been taken on various levels. Once again, instead of going issue-based, we go ethnic-based. And Innoson had been battling out with GTB for a while now, and the stories had who was right, who was wrong, what should have been done. But eventually, the Supreme Court, which the case had gone up to, had made a ruling of which on Innoson's account he actually came up with something and had stated that Supreme Court orders GTB to pay 14 billion to Innoson made on his official Twitter account. Now, this had gone around for a while. It went viral immediately, but finally his lawyers, I think, got across to him that for fear of contempt of court charges for defaming the Supreme Court, that he should publicly also rescind, delete, and take back that statement. So here he is winding down. It's getting also wide press of.
So what's the distortion to this?
And in his own statement, in his retraction, he said the caption was a slight distortion of the information. When the information came to our notice, we had to correct the error. Staff who was managing social media accounts. So, in news alerts, this is what we refer to as real fake news. It has no iota of truth.
There should be consequences. So.
Yes.
I know the number of older relatives who called, who remember, banks, falling apart in the 80s and, before then, and calling and, fretting about their funds.
I would ask you whether you are a shareholder of GTB, because GTB hasn't slammed any consequence yet.
Well, the matter is still in court.
Yes.
It hasn't been finalized, which is why I think they're just waiting to see how the court is going to decide to react to this, because they really shouldn't be discussing it until it's been resolved.
And I should say there's a thin line in this court case, because it's like a husband and wife. This is between a bank and its own customer. So let us see how this marriage works out at the end of the day. Two, we also want to commend them for coming out to retract it, even though there was a what do you call it, consequences for it. But people should be able to come out and apologize for things that they have done wrong. If you mischievous behavior, if you had gone contrary to the truth, you need to stand up and state where you have gone wrong.
All right, a few more messages have come through up on the hashtag freshlypressed981. Toski says, please, that judge deserves some accolades. Please, she should not be compulsorily retired
included
until the Imo State governor leaves office. Hashtag buries him. While Agogo Sam up on Twitter says, best bond also means best borrowers, LOL. Not a bad accolade, but there are more attractive financial awards that we can aim for. While up on WhatsApp, MI from Akoka says that judge is so my woman crush Wednesday. 14 years is a good deterrent to those who are contemplating such. And it's also instructive to note that the man in the middle of the storm is aligned with the broom and a serving senator. Eku, I was misled. While this one is in from Damasus, who says a major setback to the fight against corruption is the lack of consequences. Now that we're getting results of this fight, with 2 governors being sent to jail if the judgments don't get upturned, can we advocate for a stiffer sentence like life imprisonment? Well, I guess we'll see.
We will see. Now, our final story to touch on is from the Guardian newspaper this morning. Value of unlicensed software in Nigeria drops to $123 million. And it really sheds light on the use by emerging markets in recent times of cheap software or malware, as it is called, especially when it's not licensed. Now, in this story, it said the usage value of unlicensed software in Nigeria appears to be plummeting. And going by the latest statistics by the Business Software Alliance, the report obtained by this newspaper on Monday shows that, on that title, shows that at least as of 2017, the rate of installation of unlicensed software was 80%. That hasn't changed so much, but they've recorded a decline in that number.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not recent. It's been it's an age-old issue. But that so the absolute percentages haven't reduced, but the values have. It's an indication of our respect for intellectual property rights. It's a reflection on our appetite for compliance. It's a reflection, to be honest, also on the economy as well, right? Because not everyone can afford the licensed software, and some of these tools have become so intertwined with daily life on productivity, especially productive for work tools, that you need to use them. And if the fake is out there, I don't support it, but where people can't afford, then they'll take that option. So it's a concerted effort and a bunch of things. This underscores the fact that, if you look at the countries that they've rated that have the biggest issues, many of them are in Africa. Libya is at 90%, Zimbabwe 89%. And even countries that are better well off, like the UAE and Israel, are not left out. The UAE is at 32% and Israel is at 27%. So unique to us. What would be good, though, however, is so a lot of foreign spending goes to international software. It would be good if we insourced, for lack of a better word, we developed and used software from Nigeria a lot better. That would help us save on some of those ones and potentially even earn income from exporting software.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That brings us to the end of Freshly Pressed for this morning. I'll just round up with a couple of messages. Shukuma Moma up on our live stream on YouTube says, this judicial news is a feel-good story. At least there's hope for our judicial system. We would like to see more of this, please. While Big T says, Judge 1414, I like that, should be commended and honored, but the emphasis should now be placed on solidifying our structures. It is too easy to loot public funds, and we need to make it less so. Agreed. Please find our analysts up online at Devoe Okorie and at Big Kus. That's Devoe Okorie and Tunde Okufi. But stay with us, because coming in at 8:15, it'll be Tega to give us a detailed SWOT analysis inside.
Even get crispy too.